Welcome to another episode 2 of the Abbotsford Farm Podcast. It's an Abbotsford Canucks podcast powered by Black Press Media and the Abbotsford News. I'm Tim Dickert here with Ben Lypka. Ben, we actually got to watch Abbotsford Canucks hockey. What is your sort of, impressions? I mean, it's a first away road trip. They hadn't played any preseason games. Most of these guys haven't played together except for practice. What were your sort of impressions from the first few games?
Yeah, and you could tell that first game. I remember I was watching the first period, and that was I was like, is this professional hockey or what's going on here? They had 3 shots on goal in that first period in the first game, and it was a little bit tough to watch. And Trent talked about that later on. We'll have him on, and he spoke about that a little bit. But after that first period, though, like, everything was extremely entertaining. The second game was better. The third game was good as well. And to come out of a road trip to getting 3 out of a possible 6 points, you can't really, like, that's what you want. You want to be at least 500 on the road. So. Yeah,
I mean, I'm no hockey scientist, but I think that what you want is you win, the majority of your home games. You want to go 500 on the road, and that probably lands you in the playoffs.
Yeah, and that third game, now that game wasn't free on AHL TV, but they were trailing 2-0 for most of the game, and then they came back and they were up 3-2. So that game could have went either way. The first game, again, after that first period, I thought they played really well. They were in that game from the start. So considering they didn't have any preseason games, and considering it was a short training camp and there's a pandemic going on, I think they have to be pretty pleased overall with how it went.
Yeah, who thought I would be arguing for more preseason games? What an absurd idea. I honestly hadn't thought too much about preseason, because when you watch the preseason hockey for the NHL, the lines aren't built, the players aren't playing with who they're going to play with. The stars barely play. The NHL regulars, only play like half the preseason games. So in my mind, preseason is no big deal. It doesn't matter. But I mean, it was clear watching this team that they could have used at least one preseason game to get their, just to get a sense of each other on the ice. So it was, I think there's only, you can only look at it through a positive light, this first road trip.
Yeah, preseason hockey is almost as bad as preseason football. So I've never been a huge fan of preseason hockey. You can't really read a whole lot into it, but I think especially for a new team, and like, I'm new to the AHL, so maybe for the AHL it's even more important, just because there's so much roster turnover and there's so much uncertainty with every team every year. So I think they could have used a preseason game, but I mean, like I said, you can't really complain about the first road trip at all.
Now, for you, who stands out? Who stands out on the team? We're going to get to know this team pretty well over the next few months, and hopefully we're going to fall in love with this team, and hopefully we'll see success and all of that. So who are the players you sort of saw in the first few games? Who was standing out to you? Who are the players you think, hey, we're going to get behind these guys as the season goes along?
Justin Bailey, definitely. And I'm a little surprised, like, a guy like him's not in the NHL somewhere. Like, he's 6'4", he's a big guy, he can skate, he's an excellent skater, he's got a pretty good shot. Like, he seems to know what he's doing out there. He scored 2 goals. He was pretty good. Phil DiGiuseppe, again, he's a guy, he should probably be in the NHL somewhere, I think, too. Really solid player. Defensively, I actually really like the entire top 4 for Abbotsford. Like, Madison Bowie, I thought, especially in the third game, he played excellent. Jet Wu, he's one of the top Canucks prospects in general. I think he's looked pretty solid. And then especially in goal, like, I knew nothing about Artur's Silovs, and he played the second game. He was outstanding. Like, he really stood on his head. he really won them the game. And even DiPietro, I know he has 2 losses, but he's kept them in both games. And like, I don't really think he's even let in a bad goal yet. So there's a lot of potential with this team. And I think, when we talked to Patrick last week, Patrick Williams with the AHL, that's the impression that he kind of gave off. And it's a solid team with some solid veterans. And then obviously the big talk after the first 2 games was Danila Klimovic. And
Yes.
He scored 2 really nice goals. He didn't do a whole lot in the third game. I didn't really notice him a whole lot, but you can tell, like, he has the hands, he has the skills. Like, he still needs to develop, obviously, but there's definitely, like, there's some potential there. Who were some of the guys that caught your eye?
Well, for me, it was Klimovic for sure. I mean, when we talk about, the exciting thing about the AHL, particularly having the Abbotsford Canucks here, in the Lower Mainland, surrounded by Vancouver Canucks fans, what we're excited about is, that potential to see people who are going to be on the Vancouver Canucks roster further down the line. And, Klimovic was one of these guys drafted in the second round. People are excited about. But not a high-end prospect or one of these people, that people are like, oh my goodness, I can't believe they got Klimovic in the second round. It's unbelievable. But he's 18. He's playing professional hockey, which if he was Canadian or American wouldn't be an option. So it's exciting that we're able to see him, and it's exciting to see that we might be able to be seeing the first sort of steps of a player who might make the Canucks in a couple of seasons. And so for me, that's exciting, because when we go to the rink and maybe I'm there with my kids, I'm going to say, hey, look out for that guy. Look out for Klimovic, because he might be on the NHL team in a couple of seasons. And then that whole thing, I think, is partly what makes the AHL exciting, is that you want to take ownership of these players. You support them. Like when you're in high school and you like the band before everyone else,
Yep.
Like that. It's like, I was in on Klimovic from his first AHL game, and then, he makes it to the pros, and, you get excited to see that. And I think we're seeing the seeds of that already, which is really, really exciting. But I was
going to say the best part of that is when you jump on the bandwagon early, then you can jump off when everyone's on, and you can say, he used to be good. I remember him in the AHL. Remember when he was good, when he was 18, when he was scoring goals, remember? Before he had the huge contract. So yeah, that's the other thing. I wanted to shout out one other guy too, Klimovic's line mate, John Stevens. Like, I think there's a reason why, and we spoke about Trent Cull about this. They're rooming together. Like, John is a solid guy out there. He was great on the penalty kill, and he's a guy, like, he's a solid pro, like Trent said in the interview we're going to hear later on. And I really liked what I saw from him too.
Yeah, and it's going to be exciting to see these guys in person. And we are recording this before the home opener. Friday the 22nd is the home opener. We're recording before then. What are you looking forward to seeing sort of with your own eyes?
Yeah, late breaking news. I got another scoop for you. I just got an email. This might not help people listening to it later on today or over the weekend, but there's actually a pregame party starting at 4:00. It sounds like there's going to be player entrances. It sounds like it's going to be like a WWE setup or something like that. It sounds kind of cool. And there's a bunch of stuff going on outside of the plaza. There's going to be food, etc. So I think that's going to be pretty neat. That's going to be for 2 hours before the game. But I just think, just the atmosphere of the rink. Like, I've never been in Abbotsford Centre, and unfortunately it's only going to be 50%, which is too bad. But Friday's game is going to be 50% capacity. Like, there's going to be as many people as they can get in there are going to be there, and that's actually the case for Sunday as well. So I think just being in the rink and feeling the energy, like, it's been a long time since I've been at a live sporting event with that many people. So
yeah, I've been in the Abbotsford Centre for a couple Abbotsford Heat games, and then also for some Harlem Globetrotters action. So
that was your dog?
Yeah, that's
we were talking about my bird early, but your dog's dropping the ball right now.
Yeah, well, listen, he's a big Abbotsford Canucks fan.
He's passionate.
He's excited about the game tonight. And so the Abbotsford Centre has this great feel. It's going to be really great in there, no bad seats, that sort of thing. But what I'm hearing about a lot in the days leading up to it, and you brought it up last week, are some hot dogs. What are we talking about here? What's going on with these hot dogs?
Yeah, so and I know we had I'm the scoop king. We had the big scoop last week about lollies coming to the Abbotsford Centre, and so these are giant hot dogs. The guy's been sent outside of Canadian Tire for a few years now. Super popular, and he's kind of like a folk hero here in Abbotsford. He's a guy that everybody knows about. He donated his kidney to a customer a few years ago. That story kind of went viral. And he's just a hilarious guy. He's got a hilarious social media presence. And he kind of makes fun of his customers. He's kind of crotchety a little bit, but it's always an entertaining experience going there to get a hot dog. So so he actually debuted on Thursday. There was a country concert last night, so I'm not sure how that went exactly. So he's going to be totally ready for Friday. And it's going to be interesting. He did post some photos online. Like the whole setup looks really cool. Like he has his own sort of area in there. There's a big sign up. And I think he seems really excited because to go from, you're in a Canadian Tire parking lot and now you're in the Abbotsford Centre at Abbotsford Canucks games and other events. And it seems like a really, really big deal. So it's going to be interesting to see. I think there's going to be a huge lineup for these hot dogs. Like it's going to be nuts. And if you're going to the game, or if you're going to future games, you might want to go early to get the hot dogs. Because I'm not sure what he is as far as like supply goes. Because that's one of his things. Like he sells out at Canadian Tire every day. So I can imagine could be the same case here. So I would go early and I'd get your hot dogs early if you want them. But yeah, it's going to be. It's gonna be a lot of fun to see how excited. I think he's gonna be super excited. And the lineups are gonna be long. That's my prediction.
So one of the fine folks from the Abbotsford News actually caught up with him and spoke with him a bit about how this came about and what we can expect.
That was my colleague Vicky Hope. She's a legend in Abbotsford. She's been with the News since 1991. So. And she's won awards. She's great. She told me to say she's great, otherwise she'd beat me up because she can be scary sometimes when she's mad. But no, she's an awesome colleague, an awesome coworker. So yeah, she caught up with him shortly after the news came out that we found out that he was going to be at the Canucks at the Abbotsford Canucks games, and she went right to Canadian Tire and spoke to him directly.
Yeah, what was your reaction when they told you, hey, we were talking to these guys and they're interested in having you? And
my gut reaction was I knew that this was an extension of Rogers Arena and the Vancouver Canucks, and I thought, wow, this is incredible opportunity and that we have to take it and go full throttle. And then we started thinking about what's the main problem at a lot of sporting events. It's lineups and everybody comes out all at once. And we picked the location that we wanted, the unit, and which is one unit off of center ice, unit 107. And we are only going to do one item to make it streamlined, to make it fast. We're going to have 3 cashiers. Our goal is to make it the fastest food, service, and beverage lineup in this stadium. And these guys at Spectra and the Vancouver Canucks have been nothing but amazing. We are sticking true to our guns with we will not serve any ketchup and we will not serve anyone wearing a Manchester United crest. We are allowing sauerkraut, so there is kind of a little give and take. We are very excited about this, the opportunity to also bring awareness to the Kidney Foundation. We will have signs up saying if you want free hot dogs at every sporting event and every Lully's location, become a live kidney donor, and you get free hot dogs for life, obviously.
Well, how is that all going in terms of the matches that you've had?
It's so difficult. We had 28 people step up. 27 of them were canceled out either for high blood pressure, low iron, borderline diabetic. One girl, Krista, went in to do it because her brother had slipped and fallen on a ladder at a Tim Hortons a few years back and died. So she was doing it in memory of her brother. So she started all the blood work to become a kidney donor and found out she was in stage 2 cancer. So they actually saved her life because she was stepping forward, and they caught the cancer in time, and now she's doing great. So we've got Gavin Kwong, who's a local guy, and he is doing fantastic. We've got a lot of other friends who have gone through the cycle. We're still trying to get more people to step forward, and I am living proof that you live a normal, even a crazy life afterwards.
I follow you on Instagram, I know.
I've never slowed down once after the operation. My life has been completely back to normal or abnormal. And it was the best journey of my life. It was
and
Tim's doing great. He has up and downs because of his diabetes, but the kidney is pulling off blood work that is just phenomenal.
Excellent.
So he is doing great, and I rub it in his face all the time that I saved his life and that I'm awesome. And I kind of look at it like I'm Dr. Frankenstein and he's the monster, and he doesn't like that. So, but we're coming up to our 1-year anniversary on December 14th, and I've got something up my sleeve for him that day. And other than that, this arena thing has just been, my brain is just motoring.
So did any of that scare you at all?
No.
No,
not at all.
That's a huge thing to take on.
Yeah, it's fun.
You're a guy that, as people like to bug you about, doesn't have a set schedule. You have to watch social media to know when you're open. And now, do you know how many
there's
events?
We've got a contract until Christmas, because that's Spectra that runs it until Christmas, and then the Vancouver Canucks owners take over the arena as of January 1st, and we're hoping to obviously continue our relationship with them and impress them to the point where maybe we get our foot in the door at Rogers Arena one day. And again, we're going to keep the kidney thing in the forefront. We're going to stay true to the Lully's way of serving a hot dog with all our funky homemade sauces, and the no Manchester United and no ketchup obviously is in play. And
so you for sure will be at the Canucks opener?
If we can get the equipment brought in, which is the hardest part right now, if we can get the equipment brought in, then yes, there's nothing holding us back. Right. That's the biggest
And then
obstacle.
You'll be at every Canucks game and every concert.
Until January 1st, and then hopefully we get our contract renewed. And like I said, we will have the fastest lineups, so come and see us.
Yeah, probably the longest lineups, Steve.
Well, we're going to have 3. We could probably pop out about 42 hot dogs every minute. If we get it into the system, that the way that I'm trying to organize it. So yeah, we're hoping to do 400 to 600 hot dogs a night.
That was reporter Vicky Hopes talking to Skully White, the hot dog king of Abbotsford. What were your thoughts on? Are you going to try these hot dogs, or what? Like,
listen, I mean, I am into food hype. So if there's like a hype around a food, I want to try it just to see what's up. So I'm going to try these hot dogs. But I mean. He talks about being able to do like 600 hot dogs a night, which sounds crazy. That seems like a lot of hot dogs. He's got an anti-ketchup stance. And you know, I first encountered the anti-ketchup lobby early in my radio days. I was working somewhere, I forget where I was. Oh, you know, I was doing my internship at the Team 1040 back in the day. And someone was talking about how adults don't put ketchup on their hot dogs. And at that time, I was 27, I think, something like that, 26. And I was like, what do you mean? I put ketchup on my hot dogs. Hot dogs is delicious. What's the problem?
Well, you know, I got to admit, I'm not a ketchup guy. I'm not at all. It's for children. Sorry.
What is that? What does that mean? It's for children.
It's sugar and tomato stuff. I don't even know what it is. To be honest.
You've just fallen under the peer pressure of the like.
No, mustard
have ketchup. And that's all this is.
No, you know what? And I went to Chicago a few years ago, and that's sort of the Chicago hot dog. Like that's where hot dogs are huge. Chicago, Wrigley Field, etc. And they don't allow ketchup on hot dogs. Like that is a no-no. You're mocked if you ask for ketchup or if you put ketchup in Chicago. So I'm going to listen to them. I think they know what they're talking about.
But what's the problem? It's perfect. The ketchup is sweet, and the hot dog is savory and salty. Sweet and salty. It's a world classic combination.
That's trash. Sorry, I'm not.
How dare you, Ben Lypka? Unbelievable. This is absolute horse manure. I had no idea I was getting involved in this podcast with someone who had been so thoroughly brainwashed by the anti-ketchup lobby.
I didn't know that. Yeah, I did not know that you were a big ketchup guy either. I mean, I might have to reconsider this whole project. But no, it's for children. It's sugar. Like, why don't you just put a bunch of sugar on the hot dog too?
Because then it would be all grainy. Why would I do that?
I don't know.
Okay, hold on. Before we move on, Ben. Okay, obviously you're anti-ketchup, which like obviously colors my opinion of you. I've known you a long time, and this is the beginning of this. So, what do you put on your hot dog?
Just mustard. That's all you need. Just mustard.
Mustard.
When I was a child, like,
what a nightmare. What a nightmare.
Come on. Okay, do you remember hot dog day back in the day in school?
Of course I do. It's the best.
Yeah. So when I was a child, when I was in grade 4, grade 5, then I would put ketchup on. It was acceptable then because you're a child. You don't know what you're doing.
What do you mean acceptable? It's your food. You're putting it in your mouth. You get to make
kids don't know what they're doing. They think red looks cool. I don't know why they liked it. Why I liked it, but it was fine then. But when you become an adult, you move on. That's just
yeah. It's because of your more refined palate. Is that what?
I'm very refined. Yeah, very refined.
All right. Now, before this podcast completely goes off the rails any more than it already has,
it already is.
If you want to weigh in on the pro ketchup, anti ketchup policies of some of our colleagues who will remain nameless, you can go to the Abbey Farm Pod on Twitter and send us a tweet there, and we'll see how things shake out from here. But if I see just a bunch of like middle-aged men complaining about ketchup, I'm going to be only reinforced with how I feel. Okay. I want you to know that before you weigh in. Just keep that in mind. We had the fortunate opportunity this week to speak with Abbotsford Canucks head coach Trent Cull. They were on their road trip heading back to Abbotsford. He had a bit of time to talk to us, and we were able to get his impressions of the first few games and the big change, obviously, for him as someone who he's been working as a coach in New York State for almost all of his coaching career, and now he's all the way out in Abbotsford. So we were able to get his impressions on all of that. So here is Abbotsford Canucks head coach Trent Cull. Thanks so much for joining us. We really appreciate it.
No, thanks for having me, guys.
So, I mean, first 3 games, you had no preseason action. How do you feel those first 3 games went?
Well, just a quick synopsis is that first one we were kind of all over the place, to be honest with you, and it's they're big points no matter when they are, but I guess that it kind of has to be a little bit acceptable, right? We've had a group that's been added to up until yesterday, our game, second game versus Ontario. But first game was a little bit messy. There's some points that we tried to pound home, and I think the guys got better as the game wore on. But I was really happy with, I think, our performance from night 1 to night 2. I thought night 2 we played just a whole lot better. A lot more details were done a lot better, and it was great to see just how quick the guys can adapt. I thought that was really exciting, just because to know how much that they can learn within just one evening. And then I thought the Ontario, our second game there, we started slow. We weren't sharp. We weren't hitting the plays that we needed. Weren't hitting the passes. Weren't executing. But we found a way to hang around. Mikey DiPietro held us in there, and wanted a better outcome, but shorthanded goal and overtime wasn't too bad.
I mean, I think from an outsider's perspective, I mean, that was clearly, the first game action, and I think fans like myself, we see the preseason as like, oh, these guys are professionals, preseason is not a big deal. But I mean, what do you think you missed out by not having preseason?
You know what? It is what it is. I mean, Vancouver had a smaller camp. Vancouver had, pending contracts, injuries coming in, etc. So it was a different year for the big club, and then they needed to have more staff. We weren't prepared to have preseason games. We didn't have enough bodies, and sometimes just because you play a preseason game with maybe 3/4 of a team that's probably not going to be your team in another week, maybe that's not the right format either, right? So it was what it was this year. We're adapting and figuring out as we go, and then it's fine. I mean, we'll be fine. And I like the group that we've had. We had a good chance to practice. Didn't have the practice that you wanted with the numbers, but that's just me as a coach speaking, So,
I think from a fan's perspective, we see, when a team moves, when a team relocation, whether, in any of the major sports, it's essentially the same team that moves to a new city, but it's not the case, right? In the AHL, you guys are almost building from scratch. Do you feel like you're starting from scratch, or do you feel like you're able to continue the work you were doing in Utica?
It's a really great point. I've thought about this a lot because it's a new start for me and the way I look at it with our group, because not only like you say, you go through, it's a lot of new players, but last year we had a split affiliation with St. Louis. So we had half of the group that we normally have. Then the guys that I am familiar with or are familiar with me and how we've kind of operated things in the past, like just off the top of my head, the Justin Bailey, the Sodners, the DiPietros, like they didn't spend any time barely with me last year. So, it's not only do you have familiar faces, but you haven't even seen them because of last year and the taxi squad, et cetera, et cetera. So it's been a new start, and it's been and starting running. You know what I mean? We haven't had a lot of time to get her going, but it's nice to see that there's improvement from night to night, and something we want to obviously keep building on.
Yeah, and for the fans, who are new to AHL hockey, we've talked a bit on the podcast about the ever sort of changing nature of playing in the AHL. What do you hope to bring the fans in Abbotsford? What will the Abbotsford Canucks brand of hockey hopefully be?
Yeah, well, for me, it'd be just a working class. I mean, we want to make sure that the work is up front and first and foremost. It doesn't matter of our skill level, our execution of the system, etc., unless we're going to work, and that has to be first and foremost. And I think any town, any place can get behind that, because you respect people that are working hard. They may not always get the right outcome, but if they're working hard doing things and trying to get better, then I think a lot of people have a lot of leash with that kind of attitude and see that. So that is the focus first and foremost with the group. And then from there, like you referred to, it is a league of adversity. I mean, if you had told me, Zach McEwen was going to get picked up on waivers, or John Gadjevich, et cetera, all these things, or guys were hurt or injured or whatever, you'd be like, holy cow, that's going to really affect us. And it does. There's a lot of things that affect, not only does it affect the Abbotsford Canucks, but it affects things that happen in Vancouver affect us as well. And we have that's why I call them Big Brother, but we have that kind of family system here. And but if one thing happens to the family, it affects all of the family. And so that's one thing about the American Hockey League. You never know what's coming next.
Yeah, you mentioned some of the new faces, the new players. Early on, who are sort of some of the guys that you've been impressed with and you're kind of excited to work with?
You know what? I don't really dial into specifics. I'm excited to work with everybody. It's nice for me, it's just to get to know guys, see, talk to them a little bit. And it's been so busy right now because, like I said, the guys have been coming in and out. And we just had, 2 guys play their first games last night who haven't played yet. So it'll be nice for us to get through this weekend at home. We hope to have a great home opener, another game on Sunday, and then we take a breather at home for a week. And that would be a big week for me, I think, just to be able to get around the players a little bit, have some one-on-one meetings, just talk to guys and be able to kind of just dig in on guys and make sure we're kind of building our relationships.
Yeah, I heard on a previous interview, one kind of interesting thing when you were talking about Klimovich, how he's rooming with John Stevens. Is that something that you guys recommend, or is that the players do that? And why do you think that partnership's going to work?
That's by design. Just for me, I have a good relationship with John Stevens. I know John very well. John comes from a hockey family, and I think he's just a good, solid young man. He's a good pro, is what we say in our business, and I think it's good for Danila to be around those guys and to see what they do at their quiet time or when they're getting up in the morning and all these things. And I'm more worried about Danila. I mean, he's a young man. He's 18 years old in a complete different country with a language barrier. So I want to make sure we're taking care of him. I mean, I have 3 sons of my own. I actually have a 17-year-old. So I want to make sure that, Danila is comfortable and that we're kind of having an arm around him just to make sure he's okay, kind of all over the place, I guess, on the ice and away from the ice.
Yeah, I did hear that interview where you talked about your 17-year-old. Like, is that how crazy is that for you to think about Danila being just a year older than your son?
Well, I guess if you're trying to tell me, Ben, that I'm old, yeah, I'm getting there. I understand what you're saying, but no, it's amazing to see the years of kids, now playing hockey. You see their birth years, but no, I that's exactly, and I've had these conversations with coaches as you get older. If you're a parent, it helps you. You become a better coach. You learn to have a little bit more, I guess, empathy and compassion. You want to make sure you're not only, coaching guys and making them better, but you want to make sure that they're better humans too. And if we can influence that, we want to. And so I think with, having that relationship and knowing that's where you want to make sure that there's a trust that we can build there with Danila and myself. And hopefully that'll help us in the long run. He's a dynamic young player who's going to have probably a pretty bright future in hockey. And so we just want to make sure we're taking care of everything with him.
Trent, you played some of your AHL career in, New York State. You played in Syracuse. You started your coaching career in New York State and Syracuse. What's this like for you personally to have, spent a lot of your professional career in New York State or out East, and now you've had to pick up and move all the way to Abbotsford? What's that change been like for you?
It's exciting. I mean, I finished playing there in Syracuse, but I've coached in Syracuse, coached now in Dickert for the bulk of my coaching career in the American Hockey League. And so it's nice to have new challenges, and whether it's a bus ride, a plane ride, or, what we're doing on a day where we're not playing on the road. And it's a complete different dynamic, but that's exciting. And I think it's a good dynamic for me. It's a good dynamic for the players, because this is more the lifestyle that they will lead when they play for the Vancouver Canucks, hopefully. And so I think it's good for them to get adjusted, and we're trying to make that transition as easy as possible. And then on the other side, personally, I wasn't able to bring my family this year, so it's I get to dig in on work, kind of be certainly all in all the time, but now it's just trying to deal with the time change is the biggest thing I find. 3 hours away from making phone calls to my family or seeing them or FaceTiming them. So, but that's all part of the business. Sometimes it's not always ideal, but we'll be fine with that for sure.
One thing I've noticed is you've dressed 3 assistant captains each game. Are you going to be naming a captain, or is that something that's not normal in the AHL? Or are you waiting for the roster to settle down?
You know what? For me, it's just I'll have 3 different A's at home as well, and it's just kind of feeling everybody out. You've kind of heard through our talk here already that we've just been kind of, as you said, thrown together. We've got a lot of guys that are new to me. I don't want to be hasty in any decision, and so I want to get to know our team. I want to see our players and how they act, and good and bad times, and on and off the ice, and sometimes. By being patient with that, maybe if there is a captain to be named, that guy will emerge and it'll be easy to see. And sometimes if it's not, I don't mind having a shared leadership group either, where you don't necessarily have to have a letter on your shirt either to be a leader. So we've got some other guys around as well. So that's where we'll go right now, and then see where maybe reevaluate here in another month and see where we're at.
One other thing I was kind of curious about, Vancouver is one of the few teams without an ECHL affiliate. So as far as, this might not be your decision, but is that something, like, how are you guys going to handle moving guys in and out at a lower level, if that's something you're planning to do?
Yeah, you know what? I try to stick to coaching. I've got my hands full enough. You know what I mean? Talking with these guys, and they're great guys to work with. But yeah, that's more Ryan Johnson, my boss, who does a really good job at those things. And I mean, yeah, like you said, we've had an affiliation with Kalamazoo in the past. We still do. Is the travel's a little bit of a different skew, but you know what? They're not far from Chicago and Detroit, getting on there and getting flights out. So I'm sure that's not a concern. I guess, and for me, I'm always worried about the guys kind of right in front of me. The guys that you can see the whites of their eyes. Those are the guys you want to make sure that you're taking care of them, and we're and hopefully to be as healthy as we can. And again, we always hope for Big Brother to be healthy, because it helps us down here for sure too.
Yeah, one other thing I wanted to ask about, and I'm sorry, I'm going to make you feel old again, but I was looking through some of your OHL career, and I think Abbotsford fans, Vancouver fans need to know that you were a really solid OHL defender, and you went up against guys like Eric Lindros, Chris Gratton. So, you know, what do you bring from your past as far as a coach goes, especially on the defensive side of the game?
I mean, I think that's a long time ago, but yeah,
it's not that long.
I feel very, I guess, adept at being able to speak on the defensive side of the puck, you know, and how we play as a team. That stuff came very natural to me. So, and then now what I've worked on in my coaching career, like when I first started, I started as a junior in Guelph, and I was coaching the defensemen, but it was great. This is back in the days of VCRs and audio tapes, but you know, like I used to sit there and watch the forwards in downtime and watch our clips and work with, trying to work with our forwards and development and stuff. And that was kind of it's almost like the quest to get better and more rounded. And I think that was, you know, that's the stuff that helps you just have a complete, I guess, focus on both offensive and defensive. And now the game too has changed so much. Everybody's good defensively. Everybody works so hard. So trying to score goals is a premium now, and it's really difficult to not to necessarily coach it, but to achieve that as a group. So that's something that we always have to make sure that we're keeping up with and growing with, because the game is certainly changing, and it is very difficult. And the goalies are only getting better and better. That's for sure.
Yeah, you know, Trent, the 90s weren't that long ago, in my opinion. Doesn't feel that long ago to me, anyway. So
you're not coming back, right? Aren't the 90s coming back? 90s are back.
They're totally coming back. And I guess just lastly, I know Friday's the big home opener. How are you feeling about the game and just coming to Abbotsford, and also how are the guys feeling?
Well, we're going to see. We're just kind of getting ourselves together here right now, leaving LA and getting back into Abbotsford tonight here. And we'll have a good practice day on Thursday. And then, you know, Friday pregame skate. So I think everybody's really excited to be in Abbotsford. I think everybody's excited about we've been there a little bit for kind of a training camp, et cetera. And so everyone feels the vibe, like the kind of the buzz. It's been great to hear that the building's sold out. You know, it's too bad it's only 50%, but that's everybody's excited. And so I think it's just the excitement of getting back and getting around, and anticipation of seeing what it's going to be like. You know, we're all, you know, just excited to get in there. We got to see the one preseason game with Vancouver there, so it's a great building. The town seems, you know, big yet small. You know what I mean? You kind of work your way around it after you've been there a little bit. You kind of start getting the lay of the land. So it's a great, like, exciting place to play. And being back in Canada, I think everybody's really excited about being around hockey in Canada.
Well, Trent, if you get a chance, we hear you should try the hot dogs at the Abbotsford Centre.
Yeah, I may not try that before a game, but maybe that'll be something we can proceed after. Just so you guys, just to give you a little insight, I'm sitting here at a breakfast restaurant just overlooking the airport in LA here. And I look to my left, and here I see John Stevens and Danila coming down and having breakfast. So it's just nice to see that about, you know, those guys taking care of each other and being here. And you know, it's just that's the kind of stuff that makes you a little bit warm and fuzzy inside as a coach, because there's always the stuff on the ice, but the stuff off the ice is just as important sometimes.
Well, Trent, awesome. Thank you so much for taking the time. We really appreciate it. We'd love to check in with you a couple times throughout the season. And we wish you the best of luck this weekend.
All right, boys. Thanks for having me, and excited to see you all on Friday.
That was Abbotsford Canucks head coach, Trent Cull. I love that little bit at the end there where he just let us know that like Klimovich and Stevens were coming down for breakfast together and just getting that little like peek behind the curtain of like what's going on with the team.
That was actually pretty heartwarming. Like I wasn't expecting that at all. And I think we were having a moment with him there a little bit, but I wasn't expecting him to share that, but it was nice. It was actually kind of touching. Like just to thinking about these guys, they're on the road a lot. They develop the friendships, and especially like we talked about Stevens and Klimovich earlier, they are rooming together. So yeah, it seems kind of nice that they seem to be friends already and are getting along.
Yeah, and I think it's an interesting thing, and I think it's something that we're gonna probably see over and over again throughout this podcast is how these people who aren't from Abbotsford, how they're settling into the area, to the team, to each other. How are they getting used to these working conditions where they're traveling by plane all the time instead of by bus? There's lots of things that are going to be different now for a lot of these, these career AHLers and for the new guys too. It's something that we're going to see, I think, revisited quite a bit. But I liked the way he was very much like, hey, it's our first 3 games. We're still getting to know each other. We're still getting a feel for each other, and we're learning as we go. And I think that's such a great attitude and such a great mindset when you're dealing with this, like, you've got 18-year-olds, you've got, 5-year-olds, you've got 30-year-olds, you've got this like huge range of experience and skill levels. So taking your time and getting a sense of each other and how you're going to play together seems like such a level-headed and smart approach, which I think we don't always associate with professional sports, right?
Yeah,
level-headedness isn't always part of professional sports.
Yeah, and he's having to manage all these personalities too. Like I'm sure, like I know Schilling, for example, he's played over 500 AHL games, and he's in the same dressing room and everything as Klimovich and as Lukasiewicz, like these very young guys. So, and Cull has to manage their playing time. He has to soothe their egos, and he has to figure it all out, and he has to do it all really fast too, which he had to do this summer.
Yeah. I mean, I'm excited for the homestand. I'm excited for this team to really feel like part of the community this weekend.
Yeah, and the good thing is, so there's 2 games this weekend, and then there's 2 games next Friday and Saturday, the 29th and the 30th. So they kind of get to hang out in Abbotsford or in Vancouver and BC and figure out where they live, figure out the places they like to go. So it'll be nice for them to be able to settle in at least for a little while. Yeah,
absolutely. And then, you got to find the spots where you can get a hot dog with ketchup on.
Oh, God. Yeah. Canadian Tire, that's what I heard. Canadian Tire parking lot.
So next week, we'll be back with a 3rd episode of the podcast, and we're going to get we'll get a recap and a sense of how the homestand went, preview of next week's games. And we just want to thank everyone who's listened so far. Please subscribe and share and follow wherever you listen to podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. You can go right to the Abbey News website and listen to the podcast there. Anywhere you get it, we love it. Share it with friends and family. We really appreciate it. And feel free to send us tweets and reach out to us on Twitter if you have any questions or anything. We would love to interact with you or send you some or answer some questions or get to the bottom of things maybe you're wondering about.
Yeah, I just wanted to say a huge thanks to all the listeners. The first week, like, this is a brand new thing for me. Tim's, you've had a lot of more experience as far as the podcasts go and the radio world goes. So it was a brand new thing for me. And I was blown away by the response that we got for episode 1. We have the ability to take a look at some of the numbers and just where people, like, we had people from all over, a lot of people from BC and Canada, but we had people from all over the US. It's awesome, and keep listening. It's really exciting just to see the reach of the podcast, and hopefully we can continue to have it grow.
Yeah, and thanks a lot, and apologies for our pets in the background. We'll figure that out. And,
yeah, the other thing I wanted to mention too is post game there'll be stories, there'll be results. We'll talk to players, we'll talk to the coach after each game. So that's Friday tonight, which is the 22nd, as well as Sunday, and then next week as well. So just keep following our Twitter and keep on abbeynews.com for all the stories and everything to do with the Canucks.
You can't miss anything. You got you covered.
No, you must read everything.
All right. We'll be back next week. Thank you so much, and we'll